Hey traders, this is Christian from Aerospace Trade Group, and this is your end of day market recap for Tuesday, February 10th. Indices a little bit tired today. It looks like we also hit some resistance. I'll go over that with you in the charts for especially SPY and the Qs. Perhaps a few other areas as well. Bitcoin gave back after a couple of days of strength, gave back some gains. Also, software stocks were one of the best performing groups out of the gate today, strong in the first hour, but didn't finish that way. Do they still close in the green? Let's see. They did still close in the green, but they finished well off the highs. So I'm wondering if that bounce is all we're going to get in the software group for now. Maybe, maybe not. A little bit hard to determine at this point. Risk disclaimer, by the way, everything that we're going through in this video is for information purposes only, not giving out any advice or recommendations. Please read the full risk disclaimer there. What did perform well today? Well, diamonds were up a little bit. The Dow was up about 0.5% this morning, but this afternoon, kind of just a lot of things just slid. Bonds also had a very nice move. They were up 1.2%. That's TLT. Reminder, only reason why I'm saying this is because people confuse this on social media. The Fed does not control the long end of the interest rate curve. They only control the overnight rate. So today, the long end of the curve plus 20-year bonds were up 1.2%. Hence, notice what the number one performer was today on my spreadsheet over here. Whoops. Move this so that you could see this a little bit better, and that was the home builders. We're up quite nicely today. Again, I have to think that that's interest rates effect. With ITB up 3.7% was by far the best performing group. Materials and utilities also did well. I'll talk a little bit about materials because there's been some good earnings reports that came out from that group. On the downside, you had oil services give back some gains. Uranium stocks lagged aerospace and defense, which continues to not act well over the last couple of weeks. Metals and mining were also down 1.9%. So, cause for concern, or just a little bit of digesting after. Remember, Friday was a big rally day. And then yesterday was pretty good for growth stocks too. If you remember, yesterday the growth stocks outperformed value quite decently. So let me bring up the SPY chart, and we'll talk a little bit about where we ended the broadcast yesterday. We're back to that top of the range for SPY, and SPY doesn't like that. Something that we definitely went over in yesterday's video, that right now SPY is acting different than some of the other indices out there. But every time it seems to get to the top of this range, we got back to where we were right in the beginning of the month. That level is 795.27. If you can't read that, sorry, the font is a little bit tough to read there, but it is 695.27, and we just can't seem to kind of break through that resistance for now. Now tomorrow we're going to get some data out tomorrow. We're going to get that jobs report that was supposed to be out last Friday. That is coming out tomorrow. What else do we get? Yeah, just change in private payrolls. And a reminder, since we're talking about data on Friday, we're going to get the CPI report as well. So that's the level there that we continue to, you could call it the level, the top of the range. SPY just does not like that. Once we've been kind of talking about that this year is a bit different, where if you're buying the dip, it's working really well. But if you're pressing at the top of the range, looking for like a bigger breakout, that's where you kind of run into trouble, putting on new trades right now. So that's SPY. Here's QQQ, which we know has been underperforming, but like I said, has had a nice rally the last 2 days. But look at where we're kind of pausing at, 617.76. So definitely some overhead resistance there, overhead supply at 617.66. Also, I think it helps to kind of look at this 1 hour chart and note that we got to the top of the value area. Look at all these 1 hour candles, by the way. This was basically since I don't know, since yesterday midday, we haven't really done anything until like the last couple hours where we started to move lower. Same thing for SPY, by the way, too. If you want to look to see how this looks, notice like all these 1 hour candles that are again, same thing since around 11, 12 o'clock yesterday. We hit that resistance, not able to get through it. So yeah, I don't want to say that that's a warning signal yet. I think it really depends on the stock, right? Because again, if you go through, and I know this is getting a lot more attention, but maybe a little bit overbought here, but RSP did make a new high today, right? That's the average stock in the S&P. This is equally weighted. S&P made a new high today. Again, didn't close on the highs, but was still up. So the majority of stocks are doing quite well. It's just, I think some of the bigger tech names are not doing as well. Here was the diamonds today, which that's not the best looking candle. We've seen a couple of these, and they've been pretty good signals for reversals. So just keep that in mind. I am long the diamonds, so I did get long while this was trading inside value. So I have to be cognizant of that. If you don't know what I'm referring to, take a look at the IWM candle up here. This was back on Jan 22nd. And then we spent about a week and a half moving down. By the way, IWM right at the level there also didn't break out 267.25. That's the top of the Fed value area. And then semis also had that kind of similar kind of toppy looking candle. Again, there's similarities here. They're not perfect. And then after that, the semis took a dip lower. Notice also that for the second day, they tried to get out of the value area and couldn't do it. So we're hitting a lot of short-term resistance. The market is either waiting for something or or is just turning back down to the downside. Don't really know yet. But for now, we know that some of the short-term resistance we've been rejected at. Overall, so that's kind of what I think is going on. I think also some things, if you look at how great growth stocks behaved yesterday, it makes sense to think that these things might digest a little bit or have inside days. And I think other areas might be a little bit different. So that's kind of my thought, is that I kind of figured that out in the first hour of the day. I was like, this is I was like, a lot of the things that worked yesterday look like they're just in some digestion. And I could talk a little bit about them, but just to kind of give you a couple examples, like a GLW, and again, these things went up a lot. So the optical names, probably due for a little bit of digestion. So there's GLW, which has been super strong, down 2.5% today, but again, just an inside candle. So pay attention to whether some of your names are showing inside candles versus rejections or turning back lower. Like I'm long VIAV, down 1% today. But again, I think this just got a little bit overbought. Same thing with Form Factor, which is a name that I've been long. Again, look at how far the 5-day moving average is away from this. So for some of these market leaders, which I view a couple of these are, they got a little bit ahead of themselves. So that's fine. Other things, and we could begin to kind of look at, I mentioned I would bring up Bitcoin. Bitcoin try to get back above. So hold it before I kind of get into what it did or what it didn't do. One of the reasons why I have a 5-period moving average on my charts is because it tells me trend. And you'll note that sometimes price can really kind of get above trend, or make a reversal or something changes, or if not, it just respects the trend. For now, I would say, just lower the volume on this. For now, I would say this is in a downtrend. Now, it got oversold, and it had an oversold bounce. Look at how far the 5-day moving average was away from the price action. So it's bounced right into that 5-day moving average, and for now, it's gotten rejected. So if you really like Bitcoin, watch to see if it gets above the 5-day moving average. If it doesn't, you know that the last couple of days were just a bounce and a downtrend. IGV, might as well review this. This was a little bit stronger and did get above the 5-day moving average. I did put on a long trade in IGV. I have a call spread on, and I was able to take another target. I think for now almost 40% profits on that call spread that I put on for IGV. That is the March 88.94 call spread. So that traded back down a little bit because, again, I mentioned that software did not close anywhere near the highs of the day today. So I think that's going to be something to watch. My opinion, and I know that there's been a lot of betting on software coming back. Do I think it goes right back? No, I don't. I think some names might be able to bounce a little bit quicker. Net reported after, Net is a name that has been all over the place. It went up big and then it gave it all back and then some, but it's kind of hanging out here. I'm not long this name, nor am I going to get long it, but I'll still be watching. And I think there's going to be some things like this. This is trading at 192 after hours. Hit this VPOC up here, by the way. But I think that all software is not bad. I mean, I got long and I took profits yesterday in DOCN. And I took profits right at the VPOC. Name was down 1% today. So again, it's a little bit extended. I can look if it has maybe another inside day somewhere in here. Maybe I'll look to re-enter because I like this name and I like how strong it is in software. But that's kind of what I go after relative strength. I don't go after the weaker names. A couple other areas to discuss. So I mentioned the home builders, which did take out that upside VPOC up here. I'm long some XHB, not a big position, but it's in the TTG global trend portfolio. Right, which also no VPOC there. Really, so again, really nice move up 2.8% today. Also, the transport, not the transports too. Transports putting in a little bit of consolidation after they've made a nice run. The materials, couple names really had to look at DuPont. Right, really nice move. I've been long this chemical name, Dow, and I took some more profits in this today. Ultimately, I'm looking for this to get to 34.66. But nice little couple like inside days after this big candle. We saw a lot of calls, so I waited until we were down a little bit, then got involved in this. So that was DuPont, and then the other one, ECL, that reported earnings. This stock was up 4% today too. So all of these are in X. I believe they're all in XLB and IYM. XLB made a new high today, and so did IYM. All right, and IYM is in the TTG Global Trend portfolio. Very nice little consolidation. Seeing this in a lot of charts. This one's resolving higher, right? And I think it's going to be interesting. I was talking about a couple of these other things like ILF, which is Latin America. So a lot of emerging markets here. Watch for a pop out of the bull flags of these. And again, like, materials is kind of interesting to me. All I'm looking for is like, after this group has been strong, whether or not the earnings reports, because a lot of names are reporting earnings now, whether or not they're going to be well received. And, DuPont going up 5% tells me that they're well received. And plus, when you think about it, right, we've seen a lot of rotation this year, a lot of rotation into value. The question is, how much more rotation are we going to see? I still think that these things are under-owned. You're still not really hearing too many people talk about material stocks. I think more people are starting to talk about the industrials. Again, if you look at this comes from the midday note, which you can get involved in by putting the link that's on the bottom of your screen. But here's the 4-week new highs versus new lows. Now, again, I don't really want, I'll zoom in here a little bit so that you could see, but I don't want you like writing down names. I think the main, you could do that if you want to, but I think the main thing to notice is that, where is the strength in this market, right? What's making a 4-week or 1-month new high? Well, you've got a lot of industrial names on here. I think that's the most popular category. You got 29 names that made a new 4-week high in industrial space. You also you got a little bit of everything else. For a while, it was financials. Financials got hit with a story today about there's some new AI threat, even though it's only for taxes. But I guess it goes into the whole wealth management system. But I looked at H&R Block, which I would think would be the most vulnerable name on that headline, and I think that stock was barely down on the day. So I don't know. Maybe just an excuse to sell some of these names. I'm not sure. But tech, I mean, there's also some tech names in here too. It's just not the usual names. Like Cisco, Dell made a new high. MSI, TDY. Skyworks, which is kind of interesting because that name's been doing pretty well since earnings. But you also have a good handful. Now, materials is not that big of a group, but you could see you got a good amount of materials on here too. Some consumer services names, a fair amount of all of these. I know that consumer staples, for whatever reason, has gotten so much attention, but there's a lot of other consumer names too. Hilton made a new 4-week high. Marriott had a good quarter as well. So that's kind of what I see, and that's what's nice about looking at the 4-week new high list is some of these things are going to jump off the page to you. Like that's why I send that out in my midday note. That portion of the note is free, but you can't get past that. Like if if you're looking at that list and you see, oh my God, all these industrials are making 4-week new highs, it's not a surprise. So putting out that note midday, I do that work for you. It's free. Sign up for it. And if you want to get access to our TTG global trend portfolio, which is now up 10% versus the S&P about up 2% year to date, you can also get access to that. Basically, what I've been doing is just going where the trend is. We've got a lot of international exposure in that. We've got industrial, materials, financials, and some areas of tech like semis, and also some of the smaller tech names as well. We've got access to that, but yeah, if you don't even want to pay for anything, you can get access to that note, and you could see, exactly what's performing well by looking what's at the 4-week new high list for the S&P. All right, guys, I'll leave it there. Ultimately, like some of my names, even like Alcoa, which I got long yesterday, and some of these metals names. Again, even though this was down 1% today, not any really major change in trend, but I would be careful of some of the things that are not showing strength like this. All right, guys, have a great night. See you tomorrow.